Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To those who may have the chance to listen to this message. On the 5th of March, the National Health Minister announced the first positive case of the Covid-19 in our country. The endemic in our country has assumed a very disturbing trajectory in the past 2 weeks. The increase has been, in the parlance of the experts, exponential. The relaxation of the lockdown restrictions will inevitably contribute towards this trend. It is not rocket science, but common sense to draw this conclusion. One can be excused if it does not capture our attention. It is distant, as it were. However, when it shows up in our backyard, the alarm bells begin to ring. Events of the past few days in our communities is a typical case in point. The matters we are alluding to is common knowledge. Whilst the stats in infection rates grow exponentially with every passing day, coupled with what has happened in our communities, anxiety understandably is also increasing. It is characterized as generalized anxiety disorder in the language of medical practitioners. Those who have been infected, will they recover or will their condition worsen? As experience informs us, people by association and contact are also prone to contract the virus. Will they also become numbers on the growing list of corona patients? Are more people going to be infected? How will we cope with isolation and quarantine procedures? The uncertainty, to say the least, is very scary, very unnerving. This becomes an additional worry to the stress of sustaining a livelihood. Anxiety disorders are based on two words: what if, followed by the worst scenario your brain can devise. This is not a place you want to be in. Furthermore, the current chain of events may, by our ill-advised actions, invariably cause fear and scaremongering to take root. It may even allow us to play the blame game. Remember, there is nothing to be ashamed of to be infected. Moreover, society should ensure nobody is stigmatized. Let us instill in us responsible behavior and call out reckless conduct. It is a time that as Muslim communities we should be making all effort of finding ways to deal with this pandemic, to provide comfort, to provide support and hope for those who have been infected and for the people around them. As human beings, it is natural to be troubled by worry and even be consumed by fear, by uncertainty. It could be so overwhelming. It could be a kind of desperation that ushers hopelessness. Nothing can remedy the predicament becomes the dominant thought. That being the case, realize that you are not broken. Realize that you are not abandoned. Realize that you are not forgotten. Having said that, as believers, let us draw inspiration and be guided in our response by the Quran and Sunnah. Firstly, let us adopt the quality of tawakkul. Tawakkul is a combination of both belief and action. Believe that everything comes to pass because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed it. Nothing can happen without the will of Allah. He alone decides for our best interest, though we may not readily understand it. Secondly, action, instituting the necessary actions for the realization of our matters. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs us in the Quran, قُلْ لَن يُصِيبَنَا إلا ما كتب الله لنا هو مولانا وعلى الله فليتوكل المؤمنون. Say, O Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, nothing will happen to us except what Allah has decreed for us. He is our protector, and on Allah let the believers put their trust. On another occasion in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, مَا أَصَابَ مِن مُصِيبَةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ مِّن قَبْلِ أَن نَّبْرَأَهَا إِنَّ ذَلِكَ عَلَى اللَّهِ يَسِيرٌ. No misfortune can happen on earth or in your souls, but is recorded in a book before we bring it into existence. That is truly easy for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To contextualize, we believe that what we are currently experiencing is by the express decree and will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, this should in no way prevent us in doing the things which we naturally do in the pursuance of our day-to-day activities, particularly in the present circumstances. According to medical scientists, the strategy of a hard lockdown to minimize the risk of contracting the virus for a period longer than necessary is impractical. This necessarily implies that we must start doing things as per our routines. Consequently, we can expect more outbreaks in many places of activities and an increase in infections. However, social distancing, regular hand washing, wearing of masks as means could reduce the number of infections. So, go about your activities with courage and fortitude in the belief that everything is decreed by Allah whilst adopting all the recommended protocols. Hence, tawakkul supports the believer's confidence, his courage, his strength, motivation because of their reliance on Allah to help them achieve their goals. Secondly, it's dua. Dua is a great act of ibadat. It is a form of worship in its own right and a significant component of tawakkul. Allah informs us in the Quran, وَقَالَ رَبُّكُمْ أُدْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ. Call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and when you do, pray with certainty that you will be heard and answered. Develop a meaningful connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking Him sincerely and with an understanding of the du'as in the Quran and Sunnah, along with your own heartfelt words. Internalize your du'a the way you may have internalized your anxiety and fear, and trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will turn your dua into a means of relief and comfort. Dua is the weapon of the believer, but it is only as strong as the one who recognizes how to best use it to maximize its benefit. We often make the mistake of limiting our du'as to our own limited perception. Don't be afraid to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He moves mountains for those who ask. Hence, tawakkul leads to a life of confidence and certainty. Tomorrow is not certain, but surely Allah is. And thirdly, have a good opinion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In a hadith Qudsi, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is reported to have said, أَنَا عِنْدَ زَنِّ عَبْدِ بِي. Allah said, I am to my slave as he thinks of me. That is, I am able to do for him what he thinks I can do for him. Believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will relieve us of the anxiety, whatever it may be, however it may manifest, whenever it may impact, whenever it may affect us. We are experiencing the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is simply His will. He needs no resources. His only resource, if it could be called a resource, is kun fayakun, be and it is. In conclusion, firstly, believe that everything is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, we will adopt means to prevent ourselves and then rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the outcome. Do not lean heavily on one side. And secondly, this virus is a reality. There is no get away from it. However, adopt a balanced approach. Do not overplay it by becoming paranoid to the extent that you are paralyzed, nor underplay it, which paves the way for complacency. In conclusion, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us the balance that is needed to effectively deal with this epidemic. We make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He removes the anxiety many of us are presenting and replaces it with a sense of certainty that He will grant grant us the best of comforts. We also make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He grants complete recovery to all those who have been infected. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the patience, the courage, the fortitude to endure the harmful effects of this pandemic. Ameen. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.